Awesome. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I look forward to our next few minutes together. Just a couple of suggestions. If you have questions, if they're not pressing, if you would be so kind to use the chat, and then we'll have our esteemed co-host Kimberly check them for you. And then when we have little breaks, we can address them. And if they can wait till the end, same thing, just let us know that we can do that. And so let's start. A little bit about me. First and foremost, I'm not this handsome in person. This photo was highly doctored by a specialist. So just full disclosure. But more seriously, I've been doing this for a while. This is something I started about 15, 16 years ago, just wanting to impart with my experiences with my colleagues, in particular to people venturing into the real estate arena and the industry for the first time. But I've also done this a lot with people who either want a refresher or they've been away, they're coming back, and they sort of want to get reacquainted with the industry, because we are a very fluid industry, constantly changing. So that's a little bit about me. So let's dive in. So before the listing, one of the greatest things that can happen to us is we have an opportunity to speak with somebody regarding a listing. A phone call comes in, a referral comes in. So these are some key steps that we want to take on before the listing appointment. So the way I do it, and the way I strongly recommend you guys do it, because we're all working towards a reality where we're not going to just do one or two of these every once in a while. We want to go on these appointments and get these listings consistently. So whether on a piece of paper, depending on your preference, or in your computer or phone, have this questionnaire for a couple of reasons. It makes sure you ask all the important questions so you don't forget anything. And it keeps you on point. You really have it. It's very impressive for the other person listening to you, the kind of questions you're asking them. So have the questionnaire, and there's an example of one in slides coming up, and it's in Word format. You're welcome to take it, make it your own. And so the best question to just have your prospective clients, whether they're buyers or sellers, this always works. You start with tell me about, and then ask whatever question you want. So the first one I always ask is, tell me about your move. It's very, very important to understand their motivation. And this is the question that's going to start kind of filling that puzzle in for you. So why are you moving? Where are you planning to move? And when? And as you start working with sellers, as you start working listings, and when you work with buyers, you're going to see that the answer to this question, if you really get it, if you understand them, it's going to go a long way for them to build trust with you, and for you to establish rapport with them, because you're asking them personal questions, but coming from a place of empathy, coming from a place of wanting to help them. So they like the fact that you're asking these questions. Tell me about your home. What do you like about your home, and what don't you like about your home? And I want you, as we go through these questions, to please notice, I'll point some of them out to you. This questionnaire is not entirely mine. I originally got it from somewhere else, but over time, I have made adjustments to it. I've made it my own. That's why I said you can always change them format so that it works for you, but keep the sort of the meat, the substance, if you will, the same. What do you like and don't like about it? Why is it going to be important for us to know what they don't like about their home? So kind of have that question, and you'll see as we go through the process, when we come to the end of sort of our listing appointment, you're going to see why having that answer is going to help us establish our marketing and a price, a value for the property. What do you think your home is worth? Very, very nonchalantly, I'm sandwiching all of my very key points that I need to know in terms of where do they stand, right, with all of this. So I've sandwiched actually two of them together, what they don't like about their home and what do you think your home is worth? Is it important for us to know if they already have a price in mind? Oh, absolutely. Once you've completed your questionnaire, you have your key answers, then you want to confirm the listing appointment. Always, always, always be grateful. Thank them for the opportunity. And then another very key point, make sure all of the decision makers will be present. One of the worst things you can do is go on a listing appointment, make an amazing presentation, and at the end here, you, oh, yes, this was great, Adam. Thank you very much. Can you come back next Tuesday and do this again for my significant other? And you're gonna, you know, this emoji, this one right here, that's how you're gonna feel. So make sure whenever you have your appointment set that all the decision makers are there. So a little note here, a lot of agents like to do a pre-listing marketing package. And we'll see some examples of that coming up on the next slide. I encourage you to do it. I picked up the bad habit of not doing it, and I've been able to get away with it. But there are some really valuable reasons why we'll see now why you should send them something. So what do you want to include in your pre-marketing package? It should introduce you, your experience, and what you've done. So in the rare instances that I have used it, or in my listing presentation, that bio you saw of myself at the beginning, there's one that's more client-centric, if you will, and I have a page of that in there because for a lot of different reasons. Maybe they're not the type of people who are gonna go online and look at what my customers have to say or look at my social media. That page sort of gives them an idea of who I am and what I've done so far in this industry. It's not a CMA. Don't make the mistake of letting them know what you think as far as the value of their property this early in the process. This is more about talking, presenting yourself, giving them an idea of what kind of marketing you're going to conduct, just a general idea of what's going on. So have a cover letter confirming, again, when is a good time to be in contact and when our confirmed listing appointment is with all decision makers present. What they should expect. It's we always think that because we're in the industry, our clients, even if they've bought and sold previously, know what to expect and know what's coming. That's not true at all. I had clients say things to me like, yeah, it's been 5 to 10 years since we bought and sold. It seems like a lifetime, or it could be even longer. It could be people who've been in the same home and property for decades and, you know, they're trading up, trading down. So don't make the assumption that they know what's going on. Give them a brief idea of what to expect in terms of what a good listing agent should be doing today for them to give them really good service. Give them a list of questions to ask. If you're going to talk to other agents like you are to me, give them a list of questions to ask. Again, these are all ways of you building their trust, you establishing rapport with them, and showing them that you really care about their move. So help them with a list of questions that they can ask prospective other agents that they're going to interview. Reasons why a property sells. Again, you're sandwiching in between, providing them information. You're planting these seeds, as I call them. These seeds are all seeds that during your listing presentation at different intervals, you're going to sow. You're going to start sort of farming those seeds and sowing the results because you're already planting these questions between them seeing this and seeing you at the listing appointment because of what we asked in the questionnaire and what we're going to include in the pre-marketing package. You're starting to plant those seeds. And again, just a brief marketing plan, what you and your company Radius Agent does in terms of marketing for listing clients, sellers. It's a long list. You can highlight the key ones. You can include all of them. You don't want, Adam and I were discussing this yesterday. You don't want, in my humble opinion, the 60 to 70 page presentations, neither for your pre-marketing or at the listing appointment. I've yet to, in almost 25 years of talking to clients, say to, hear anybody say to me, thank you, that was a great read. I had a long train ride, or I was on an airplane and I read your 80-page presentation. Remember, we're not writing a book. We're not sending something to a publisher. We just want to make sure everything is thorough, covered, but we also want it to be relatively brief. The list of websites where the property will appear. This is really important. This is, over the years, this has changed. Of course, you have your marquee 3 or 4 or 5 top websites that any list you make, those websites would be at the top. Talk about a little bit about your past achievements and qualifications, information about past sales, especially if you've had recent ones in the immediate area. That's always good ones to include. Same thing for the company. And it really doesn't matter to a typical client whether the company is 2 years old or 22 years old, as long as you're going to give them good service, attentive service, help them achieve their goals, they're going to be fine. A list of reasons why you're the best agent for the job. So it's sort of a culmination of some of the other things we talked earlier in this slide, and highlight them. Why are you the best? If anybody asks me, I'm never going to tell somebody I'm the best because I know it all or I know more than anybody else. I'm always telling people I'm the best because I care about what you're about to, this endeavor, this journey you're about to go on. I truly am empathetic. I understand all the emotions, and I'm going to walk you through this process like your family. Testimonials from happy clients. Those never ever hurt. You should have them on your websites. You should have them in as many places as you can. Your Facebook business page, everywhere you can. Everybody wants to know that your past clients are all happy. Any questions about that? Awesome. Know your marketplace. The listing appointment is not the place where you want to wing it. You have to be prepared. And in today's technological world, very, very easy to do. Let's look at some examples. So how do you know the marketplace? In terms of preparing for your listing appointment and your CMA, you start by getting comparables, and those comparables shouldn't just include what has sold. You want to get what's active. That's what your competition is going to be when you bring this listing to market. Expireds. We'll talk a little bit about why it's important to know what didn't sell, because you need to explain to them. Review MLS data for the neighborhood, but don't just trust the MLS. Remember, not all properties are sold in the MLS. Prepare a really good comprehensive CMA, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Another very important thing to do, I can't tell you how many times I've taken title profile information about how title is held, specific information about the property, documentation history, and I've had people tell me, oh, that's wrong. Oh, we have 5 bedrooms, not 3. We have 3,000 square feet, not 2,700. Oh, my uncle shouldn't be on title. Whatever it is, always have the title profile so you can review it with them at the listing presentation. That's where you want any surprises to be resolved. So you want to confirm that the people who have invited you to a listing appointment are the right people who can actually sell the house. That you would be surprised. So confirm that they are in fact the legal owners and have a right to sell it. Review tax information. Another one. Oh, I thought my tax accountant paid for our taxes for the first year or second year. Remember, California, April 15, November 15. Actually, that's how it is in LA County. I'm assuming the rest of California, but there's set dates. Make sure the taxes are paid. You don't want issues with taxes. And here again, Because not all properties are sold in the multiple listing service, you always want to look at comparables that are listed on the title profile itself, because this is now public information, recorded information. Even if it was a private party sale or some kind of other sale, it should appear on the title profile. So again, you're not going to have the surprise of, oh, Giro, you didn't talk about the house 6 houses down from us, 1, 2, 3, 4 Main Street. That one just sold, and you're twiggling your thumb. Now you've been thrown this curveball, and of course you should be prepared to respond, but you don't want those kinds of things to happen to you. So make sure you check here as well for the comparables. So now you want to come up and determine some kind of a value range for the property. How do we do that? You want to have a very concise CMA. And I always say similar properties. You can go to a 10-year-old, 5-year-old set of homes that of the same builder built. We call some of them tract homes. Sometimes we use tract homes. Sometimes we say cookie cutter homes, but none of them are going to be different, because once you walk inside, whoever's lived in those properties or in their backyard, they've made it their own. They've made changes. So you want to include as much as you can similar properties in terms of the key characteristics like size, bedroom count, the basic amenities like the backyard, the property size, kitchen, and so forth. And I always say you should be able to narrow it down to 2 or 3 really good similar properties that are sold, because this is where I put on my appraiser's hat. Almost always you're going to have a loan, you're going to have a bank send an appraiser, and I've completed the appraisal course of study for the course of California. So I put that mindset on and I say, what is a prospective appraiser going to look at? And they're going to look at, in terms of geography and in terms of type of property, the 2 or 3 closest recent solds, and that's where they're going to make their adjustments in terms of establishing value. I don't like looking at older than 90 days. I'm aware of property in neighborhoods and places in Southern California where in a 90-day period, properties listed and sold for more than $100,000 than homes that sold as recently as 60 to 90 days ago. So you don't want to look at really old information, because I don't think you're going to come up with a really good current value. You want to, just like I gave you the example of confirming recent sales outside of MLS as well, you want to know all the recent sales, because what you don't know, your prospective sellers do, and they're going to ask you. That's why this is in bold and black and white. Don't be surprised with something like this. If it happens, be prepared and say, I apologize, that's not one that came up on my research. Give me 24 hours and I'll come give you the answer you want. Reach out to local agents and ask them about their activity. Especially every neighborhood has a couple of people who seem to get more listings than others. Always make sure those are your good colleagues, your good friends. Reach out to them. On that last listing you sold on Main Street, how many offers did you get? Were the offers kind of similar? Did you have anybody really just go way out of range and offer something way high, and that's the one you chose? How did that look? Anything, unusual about this property? Now you see how it's all starting to come together. When we talked about previously, what don't you like about your house? See, this is a similar question, except now you're asking a real estate agent who recently sold a property. So anything unusual that affected, the value of this property? In the middle of escrow, did you find structural damage? Did you find water damage? Did you find something in the history that affected it negatively? Did you find out that when he was a budding star, Tom Cruise lived in the house? Now the house is worth $100,000 more, whatever it was. And what's your opinion of the market now? If you were to list that property today, tomorrow, what would you list at? Really good question to ask them. And as I said before, it's really, really important to know why and how many expired listings. Who can tell me why it's important to know what has expired? Joseph, chime in here. Why is it important to know why a property or properties didn't sell?
Well, it's important to know the reason why that particular property didn't sell, and also to find out who had it on a listing.
Yes. And secondly, it's so that you can tell your client with a very firm knowledge that this is what buyers are not willing to pay for properties in your neighborhood. And when we're talking more about establishing the value, we'll talk about that. So having done this research, you should be able to come with a value range that's a maximum of 5%. And I like that 5% number for a few different reasons, but I'm never going to tell my clients, this is the number at which you should list. I give them the data. We talk about any questions they have, answer them. I give them the range, and then we'll see in a few slides why I give them range. So here's some more information about pricing. Contributed by our esteemed broker, Rebecca, very accurate. Pricing is an art and not a science. So people sometimes ask me, well, isn't there an algorithm? Isn't there a mathematical formula? No, even an appraiser who's primarily using mathematical numbers will tell you that they're considered artists and they're not considered mathematicians or scientists. Appraising property is more art basically than anything else. So, you want to look at everything as we talked about before, and you want to sort of establish a good value range based on what you've seen very similar properties do recently in the same neighborhood. And Rebecca suggests that we include also properties that are smaller and larger, because it's almost inevitable that they're going to give you an example of a property that's sold that's significantly better than theirs for whatever reason, and they're going to compare theirs to that one or those listings rather than the other listings which are more comparable or similar to their homes. So have those as a comparison to on your CMA and when you're talking about marketing. So we're now—
Jiro?
Yes.
Adele's asking, do you do adjustments?
Well, that's a really good question. Again, the appraiser in me might sort of want to do that, but I just, we're going to, by the end of this presentation, if I've done everything right, you guys are going to understand exactly what the pricing model is. And I want to reiterate something here. In terms of pricing or any part of this presentation, all of you are always welcome to reach out to me. Phone call, email, text, Slack, detailed questions. We can talk about them so that I can, obviously in 90 minutes to impart 25 years of experience is impossible, but that's a very good question. The immediate answer is yes, but it's not really difficult to do, because again, if you're choosing the right comparables, really what happens is that pricing within significantly less than 5% will come to you. But it takes practice. Good question, Adele. So I always get there a little early, unless I was recently within the last few days there, or it's right around where I live. I get there a little early, drive around. It's a very unique market today with very few inventory, as we all know, in most places, but you never know. There might be a for sale sign, a for sale by owner sign. I recently saw my first one in a while. So just get there early, scope it out to make sure, since you've done your research, there are no new surprises. Arrive at the home on time. Do your best not to ring the doorbell or knock before the actual time. You don't want to come across as too anxious. Greet everyone that's present. And this is really important. I don't know if you've heard this before. Wear you conduct your listing presentation is very important. Don't choose for them, have the sellers choose. Where would you like to sit? Some people like the kitchen table, some people like the dining room table. I've had people say, let's sit in the backyard or in the patio. Let's sit in the living room, family room. Let them pick. You want to be really, really comfortable, but more importantly, you want them to be more comfortable and relaxed. You want to come across as confident. Whatever you do, don't come across as the opposite. Just, you're the real estate expert. So display that experience. And once you kind of start speaking, you want to match their tone. If they seem to be really relaxed and easygoing people, your posture, your body language, and your voice tone should be the same. So if they're kind of relaxed like this and you're like, yeah, my company's great. I work for Radius Agent and oh my goodness, I can't wait to tell you all the great things. Guess what? You're like, oh boy. And if they're like that and you're just kind of like this, they're going to say, wow, what did this guy have before he come here? Maybe he went to the local speakeasy or something. He just seems a little too relaxed for me. So match as best as you can their body language and tone. So my mentor, who I'll share very briefly about towards the end of the conversation in case you want to go look at his videos, says very vehemently, he who is asking the questions in a conversation is controlling that conversation. So we have a tendency to think that we are in control of something when we're speaking. The more opposite could it be true. My mom used to tell me, God gave you 2 of these and 1 of those. So that's the proportion. She said should have had 4 of these really, but so you want to listen a lot more than you speak. So I promise you, ask the right questions during your seller interview when you're completing the form and during this listing presentation. I have lost only 2 listing presentations, and I'll tell you the 2 reasons why as we go along. And I'm not bragging. I'm just telling you that when you learn this stuff and you practice it and you go over there, they're not even gonna want to talk to anybody else. You're gonna be so awesome. So ask questions and listen intently. If they say something that's an aha, I always have my notebook. By the way, they love it when you take notes. What does that tell them? Who can tell me what a particular client is getting from the fact that you're telling notes? Anybody?
That you're interested in what they are actually saying, and
Bravo.
that you're logging in and
Exactly.
note of what is going on in the conversation.
Kimberly, I can't see everybody. Who was that, please?
Andrea.
Great. Andrea, you're already 99% of the way to being an expert real estate agent because you have understood the single most important fundamental thing. Exactly. Who doesn't, for 10 seconds, let's get out of the real estate realm. Who doesn't want to be heard, right? It's the #1 most desired human element is to be acknowledged. So you're absolutely right. I wish I can reach in and give you a high 5, but here's a high 10 if you can see me, okay? Good job. So ask questions, listen intently. And that's what happens. When you're listening, when you're hearing them and they're seeing that you're establishing rapport with them. This is a little tricky. This will become a little easier as you sort of practice this, and I'll give you some examples of how you can practice it. Typically, when there's 2 or more people that are decision makers, I've tested this, it's very, very accurate. You will have one person who is the emotional person, basically meaning that they make the choices and decisions more based on emotion, and then you'll have the other person who's more analytical. So the emotional person, you will notice you will establish rapport significantly quicker. They'll be the one who'll say, can I get you some coffee? Can I get you a cookie? Can I, what can I do for you? Thank you. You and I are now emotionally connected. And the analytical person will be more about, as you're talking about this, rather than establishing rapport with you, their first thought on every conversation that comes up is, Okay, so what's the bottom line? What does that mean? Is that more money, less money? You know, where do we stand? So they're the more analytic. They're processing everything you tell them from a mathematical, from a scientific standpoint, and not emotional. And then explain to them exactly how the appointment is going to go. You've already alluded to that a little bit in your pre-listing package. So explain to them how it's going to go. So this is what I do. It's very, very effective. Again, every step, building more trust and me gaining more information and getting more insight about their move and what makes these people tick. Show me your home, sellers, as if we are all prospective buyers touring this home for the first time. Let them lead, right? Let them guide, and let them tell you what they like and don't like about the property. Again, all these little sandwiched comments and questions, you'll see at the end where they will all come together very nicely. So you want to take notes, and you're going to need them at the end, because as brilliant as all of you are, we're also human beings. There will be a lot of things that are discussed. And if you've asked the right questions, you're going to be flooded with responses. So especially the key ones, you want to make sure that you write down. So write down key characteristics as you're going. Besides what they're telling you, you, of course, are making your obvious observations. The condition of the kitchen, flooring, you know, is this a home that has had significant upkeep during the recent years? Is there deferred maintenance? You know, because these are all the kinds of things that once you start talking about price that are going to come up. And then kind of start in your mind looking at, okay, what's it going to take to really bring this property on the market with its best foot forward? Is there going to be any little updates, repairs? Is staging going to be required? And then if you're the kind that prefers to remember these things photographically, ask to take photos. There's been properties where I've done photos, and some where there's just so much stuff or it's so large, I've actually asked permission to do video. Most of them are okay with that. And to make sure you tell them it's for your own personal use. And then you come, you sit wherever it is they had invited you to sit. Now you're talking about all the information that you've gathered, and you're getting ready to present them. So now you're discussing your CMA, excuse me. And again, your CMA has to have a good mix of what has sold, what is now on the market, what will potentially be their competition, and what didn't sell. The conversation we had about expireds. And again, you're guiding them, you're providing them with information, you're providing them with knowledge. And so you're not telling them where they should list the home, but you're sort of shepherding them into a really good ballpark already at this point. Use the pricing triangle. I used to use several different graphics when it was time to have the prospective sellers understand exactly why a property should be priced the way it does, and how the typical buyer's marketplace responds to a listing price. And then I discovered the pricing triangle, have used it ever since, and it's worked like a charm. We'll go over it. So this is now when, especially the analytical one, almost always, and you'll notice, almost always your emotional decision maker has already either handcuffed themselves to you, or they love you already, they're ready to sign. But of course, there's more than one decision maker, so you're still potentially overcoming objections. So there will be times where it will go really, really well. You'll be on the same page with them by this point, and they'll agree to whatever you say. They'll price the property properly, start signing documents, and you're on your way to making the next listing appointment. So when they make objections, again, this goes back to when we had the perfect answer for our question. You want to listen intently, understand the objection, and then basically repeat it back to them, right? So it might be something like, I see, Kimberly, so you're concerned that if we price the property below where you think that potentially people might come and give you lower offers on the property. Is that correct? And then let them tell you yes, no. Again, you're just letting them know that you heard their concern. And then whatever that objection is, you want to handle it. And we'll see that in sort of the objection handling section. You understand the objection, resolve the objection. Almost always, just by restating it back to them and doing it empathetically, that's enough to overcome that objection. So as you all would guess, the most common objections during and towards the end of a listing presentation are going to be around the price of the property and the commission percentage. So let's tackle the first one. So here's the triangle that we talked about. This triangle is the simplest, most ingenious pricing graphic I believe ever created. Very simple. The triangle represents the marketplace. On the left, the numbers show your asking price as a value, and on the right, the direct correlation of prospective buyers that will have interest in that property at that particular price level. As you can very clearly see, the higher you go in pricing the property at the market level, the fewer people are going to be interested in the property. And inversely, if you market below, you're going to have almost the entire marketplace who's interested in that neighborhood interested at 90%. I have tried this for the last 16 years. I have always been somewhere between that 10 to 15%. And even if you log into the MLS, you'll see on average, my listings sell for something like, and this is an average, 108% of list price. That's because when you have the trust of the sellers, when you get them to understand why this pricing model is effective, they're going to agree with you. And there's, in the recent marketplace in particular, there's going to be examples all over the neighborhood of recent homes that sold for asking price. And so you tell them, yes, sellers, the reason that happened is because they were in that 10 to 15%. They got 64 offers, and the offers just took the price well above even the top of the pyramid. Any questions on this graphic?
Jira, Fidel did have a question. Are there any disclosures that should be included on the initial listing presentation package?
No, because I'll have Rebecca chime in too. You don't have a listing. You don't have any kind of relationship in terms of to disclose anything. Rebecca?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I might mention any local ordinances, if there are any local ordinances, just to show that I'm familiar with the neighborhood and I know what is going to come our direction as far as, for instance, up here we have sewer lateral, we have resale building inspections. It just depends on what city and town you're in. So I might mention that, but I wouldn't really harp on it. I would just say that we would need to be prepared for it.
Yeah, for example, in my neck of the woods, I'm surrounded by, in less than, I think, a 40 square mile area, 7 significant sized airports, including Los Angeles International, Burbank, which is now an international airport too. It's right in the middle of some of the most high valued residential and commercial real estate in the metropolitan Los Angeles area. But Rebecca's absolutely right. We don't want to bring negativity. This isn't the place we want to bring, because once we have the listing agreement, then we discuss those kinds of things and say, sellers, the flight path of Burbank Airport, the airplanes take off right over your home. As you know, that has a significant impact on desirability and so forth. But good question. Any others?
Joe is asking to stage or not to stage, especially if the seller is trying to save money.
That's a very good question. In today's market, if they're on a very, very tight budget and literally there is an issue, I would discuss it with them. But remember, we do offer, right, for this is one of the great programs that we offer. We can actually pay for their staging before selling the property, and they can pay the company back after it's sold. If you really think the bottom line, was that Joe's question? Joe, the bottom line is, what do you think is going to net the seller more? If you think spending $10,000 on staging might net them an additional 10, 20, 30, or 40,000, there are just those properties that don't really look good when they're vacant. And then there are those properties where it's such a hot, desirable market that you may not even, between the time you bring the property on the market as a coming soon and the stagers get there, you may have 25 offers already. That's a really good question and case by case scenario. But again, if the issue is money, we have that covered because we can front them that money, stage the property for them, and then have them pay us back. But for the most part, statistics show staged homes in my neck of the woods, the average is 3 to 7% higher they sell. But again, the market is just so crazy. I have what I call hot sheets, right, for prospective buyers and sellers in case properties come on the market. The time I get to email about the property coming on the market and the follow-up one that says it's now pending or under contract is typically 3 to 5 days. So I honestly, I haven't staged a property in a few years, haven't needed it, but every property is different. On the higher end, no question about it. Any home, of course, where we are makes an impact in terms of values, but let's say 10 to 15 mile radius from where I am, Joe, if it's a property that I consider more like an estate home, let's just say over $2 million, a $2 million to whatever, $50 million home, which we have in our immediate area, that's just not a property that you want vacant. That's a property that for its best, foot to be shown forward, I would stage. It's not cheap, but definitely you don't want to, 8 bedroom, 9 bathroom, 7, 8, whatever 1,000 square feet, beautiful, a stately home. Like in the Bay Area, think of areas like, I don't know, I'll throw off some ones that I know that are really expensive. Los Gatos, Hillsboro, Sausalito, more like in Rebecca's neighborhood, 2 million probably gets you a condo and a Mercedes Benz or something like that. So the higher end homes, definitely I would stage. Any other questions? Anything about the pricing triangle? Isn't this the coolest thing you've ever seen since sliced bread? I guarantee you're going to start using this and it's just going to get you really good price listings all day long. Handling objections. All right. So this I hear about 10% of the time. Again, 90% of the time, we've established rapport. I want to work with them. They want to work with me. We go straight to signing the contract. They don't even ask any questions about the commission rate, which by always, Rebecca, tell me if I'm stepping out of line here, but I always have it pre-filled at 6%. That's what's on the contract. I
think always ask for 6%, definitely.
Yeah. I've actually taken some at 7 to 8 just because of it was a different challenging real estate market, but you're the best. You're the expert in that area. You're going to get them what they want. And you deserve to be, when they go to their brain surgeon or when they go to their cardiologist or all those key decision makers, to their attorneys, God forbid they need one, they're not going to talk about price. They're going to call all their friends, family, go online and say, I need a brain surgeon. I need recommendations. Who's the best one? I've never seen a post anywhere say, I'm looking for the cheapest brain surgeon in Los Angeles. Any suggestions? It's not going to happen. You're the best. You deserve to be paid at the best level. So put 6% down on your contract or more if you like. If you can get it, good for you. Let me know how you're doing it. So-
Jiro, this is Amber. I need to interject for just a moment. Keep in mind, in the state of Colorado, we are not allowed to price fix on our listing commissions. So I typically will say, ask for as much as you possibly can. It may be 10%, it may be 5%, it may be 6%. We're just not able to suggest to agents in any sort of way that it's a standardized listing commission.
Absolutely. It's the same in California, same
Okay.
law applies. But again, in terms of, that's why I wanted Rebecca also to interject. In terms of suggesting what you want to get paid for your service, I would be inclined to say it doesn't apply in terms of price fixing. But again, whatever you feel your value is, that's what you ask for.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So now this is when you're going to really earn your listing, and this is where you're going to earn that 6%. So I'm going to kind of get into role play mode, and I'm going to state this exactly how I would. Who wants to be my seller? Volunteer.
Hey, Jiro, this is Christian. I'll be the volunteer.
Awesome, Christian. Christian, I understand you want to save money. Are you looking for a discount brokerage?
No, I'm not.
Got it. Thank you. So now, Christian, you're going to say to me, so-and-so agent offered to do it at whatever. You come up with the number.
Sure. So I got another agent that came in earlier today that wanted to do at 4%. Can you do 4%?
I understand. Thank you for sharing that with me. I'm curious. Did the other agent offer that 4%, or did you ask for that 4%?
I asked for the 4% and he gave it to me.
So you just asked for it and he gave it to you.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
I see. What did you think of his negotiating skills?
What negotiating skills?
Well, you negotiated a commission rate with him, did you not?
Yeah, I did. And yeah, I mean, he made it easy. He was agreeable.
He was agreeable. And what did you think about him negotiating for his pay?
Well, I mean, he didn't really negotiate for his pay. He just accepted it.
I see. So if he's willing to live, they are willing to leave their money on the table like that, Christian.
Mhm.
How do you think they're going to deal with your money?
Well, I would hope that they would try to get me the most amount of money.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. But he was willing to leave his hard-earned pay on the table, excuse me, with you just asking him once. And now remember, that's his money he's dealing with. When it comes to your money, when he's negotiating on your behalf to get the best possible price and terms for your home, what do you think about his negotiating skills?
Well, I think they could be better.
I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you. So here's what I can tell you. Let's say you're offered a job, the same exact job. You've interviewed for 2 companies. You'd like both companies and you'd like to work for either. One of them is going to compensate you at 6% and the other company is going to compensate you at 4%. For which company would you work?
Well, obviously the one that pays more.
Exactly. So this is why I question the other agent's negotiating skills, because it's really, really important, first and foremost, for that agent to make sure he's being fairly compensated and doing the same thing for you. And as a matter of fact, doing the same thing for you at a much more aggressive level to make sure you don't leave even a cent on the table. Do you agree?
Sure.
Awesome. Thank you. And let me explain something else to you, which speaks to what you just said, because absolutely, I would like to think all of us would take the higher paying offer. Most agents who see a home on the MLS, when they're at a discount, there's always a doubt that just for whatever reason enters our mind. And the first doubt that enters our mind when we see a discounted commission by an agent is not the fact that we're necessarily going to make less money. It's the fact that why? Why is this agent willing to do the work that we all do, which we know how difficult it is, how much expenses we all have. Anybody in the real estate industry, for the most part, at the most basic level, has the same expenses. Why is this person willing to? So now I'm saying to myself, if I'm in a transaction with this agent, what is that experience going to be like for both my clients and myself? So this is one other reason why I'm shying away from discounted brokerages. And here, let's talk about some of those expenses. So I want to pause for a second here, actually. So what I'm doing is I'm handling their objections, but I'm not just handling their objections by saying, yes, I understand you're concerned. I'm giving them very real world, realistic reasons as to why I personally am not going to work at that percentage, and I'm weary of anybody who is discounting. It's, I can go on sort of giving the examples to Chris and continue handling his objections. Most of the time, I would say 75% of the time, the first response I have to their objection of, are you looking for a discount brokerage? Just like we talked about, nobody ever wants to admit to that, they're looking for anything discounted. Yes, they want to save money, but it doesn't mean they want to give up the quality of what they're going to get. So almost always, these are just taking it a few steps deeper, if you will, excuse me, objections that might potentially come up. So the next one typically is what so-and-so is willing to do it for that. So, so now you're having to explain, well, listen, if this person, he and I essentially have the same expenses, he and I do the same things, there couldn't be that big of a difference in terms of how we've structured our business for them to leave so much money on the table and be able to, be solvent and be good, strong businesses and be here 6 months from now, 6 years from now. So you're just explaining to them, as we talked about in the beginning, don't assume that they know how our industry works. Don't assume that they understand exactly what's going on. So now this is yet another example of they're questioning, well, yes, but 4% is 4%, you're 2% higher. So now I'm explaining to them exactly what happens with that commission, because most people don't know. You see, Chris, all us agents have fixed expenses. We have fees with our brokers. Some of us have splits. Some of us have flat fees. We have errors and emissions insurance. We pay marketing fees. We pay for our supplies. We want to drive safe cars. We insure those cars. We have service expenses for those cars. We pay taxes. And after all that, we split the commission almost always with another brokerage whose agent is going to bring the successful buyer. In my marketplace, that's about 93%. So you can insert the percentage there for your marketplace. In my marketplace, that's what it is. Less than 7% of the listings get double-ended. So 93% of the time, I'm going to share that with another brokerage. And you see, Chris, our take-home pay is really about 1%, maybe 2%. And after staging, marketing, negotiating, these are all of the things that we're going to do to be the best possible agent we can. We're going to advocate for you with our marketing, with our negotiating. We're not going to leave any money on the table for you like a prospective discount agent and brokerage can. And we're going to look out for your best interest, and we're going to close. How does that sound, Chris?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Awesome. So now you kind of, if I was actually at and this is classic Floyd Wickman. So this is the, you kind of make the puppy face. I don't do a good puppy face. If you have one, make it here, because this is how you're like, okay, this is how it really is. And just stay quiet. And like Chris did, he graciously agreed. So, and then this is my final. If all of that and the puppy face didn't get Chris to agree, he has, but for the benefit of the class, even though we already have this listing, I'm gonna share with you, this is sort of my final last resort. There's no way they're gonna pay me what I want. And I want the listing, right? There is such a thing as you not wanting the listing. You've learned things about the people, you've learned things about the property, and you, in addition to all of those things, are now going to work at a rate possibly lower than what you're accustomed to. So it's your choice to say, thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm here for you. If anything changes, please call me. I might follow up with you in a week or two. So this is my last sort of line in terms of defense and objection handling for commission. You know, Chris, I don't really like to do this because I don't want the reputation of being a discount broker, and I don't want my clients to know that I discounted for other people, my fees. But I will list your home for 5% if you can give me the names of 3 people you know who are right now considering to buy or sell real estate. So what you've done here is you didn't just give a percentage or leave something on the table, because you don't want to be a hypocrite and say, yeah, I'm going to do this for you, when 5-10 minutes ago in the same conversation, you said, what did you think about the other agent's negotiating skills? So you're asking for something in return. So it's give and take. So if you can give me the names of 3 people who you know are right now considering to buy or sell real estate, and then if they don't come up with 3 names, jar their memory, maybe from work, family, friends, maybe at your place of worship, your golf game. Just start like making them think, so they start giving your names. So now what you've done is you've agreed to take the listing for less than what you customarily would, but you've also asked them. So they're not saying, this guy, he was telling us about how great his negotiating skills are, but here he is at the end of the conversation. We got what we wanted from him. Questions?
Jiro, Joseph had a comment, I believe.
Yes.
Let me in. Oh, here we go. Hey, Gerald, great information and stuff. You hit a lot of the stuff right on the head. And a couple things I also wanted to mention out here for a lot of people is I find a lot of people that are doing the discount, or they're saying, I'll sell your house for 2%. They're offering the buyer's agent 0. Or they'll say, I'll sell your house for 3%. And offer it. And so the question I asked, it goes, well, how much are we giving the other side? So sure, I'll do it for 3%, but because most people don't understand, they think you're collecting the full 6%. So I explained to them, it says, first of all, you're paying me 6%, and part of this percentage goes to the buyer's agent. What most agents are doing, they're not telling you the full picture. They're making you believe of the 3%, and then they're bringing up the other thing, almost like a bait and switch. So what I find is that, yeah, I'll sell for 3%, but what are we going to give the other side? And I clarify that right up front, and they're like, oh, that's what the other agent's doing. Or it's like, sure, we do 1%, but they're not paying the other buyer's agent. And there's a lot of hidden fees. And I've seen the contracts where that's happening. And I've known people who got in the contract where there's a high percentage, and it says what they're paying the buyer's agent is 0. So that's the other way of looking at and helping out. The other thing too, which helpful, is when you were talking about expenses, I also tell my clients our expenses as a real estate agent are higher. The good example is our car insurance is much higher. because you only need $20,000 liability by law. But as real estate agent, when I take someone in the car, I have to have at least $200,000 for each passenger. So do you think my insurance is going to be as cheap as yours? And so all of our expenses, and going from that. But I thought those were two things that were very helpful, especially for new agents that don't understand.
Absolutely. Thank you. So I hope everybody took notes on what Joseph just shared. You have to evaluate your business. Remember, we are independent contractors. Whether you realize it or not, you're an entrepreneur, you're operating a business. So one of the very first things, obviously that's not being covered in this class, is you have to know what the cost is of operating your business. I used to have years ago a broker who would come up with the dollar amount, and he would say, for example, something to the effect of, this was before you can spend $5,000 on ads just on Facebook. He would say, if you're not investing $2,000 to $3,000 a month in your business, real estate business, why are you in it? Leave. He was a very, very strict broker, and I'm glad, because he taught me, he gave me a lot of value. So absolutely right. Joseph is right. You have to know your expenses, and you have to be able to, there are going to be times when this presentation is going to be in less than 30 to 40 minutes. And there's going to be times where, you know, they're going to open a bottle of wine. You're going to be at this listing presentation for 3 to 4 hours. And you know what? That's fine if that's what it's going to take for them to become comfortable with you. And those are all opportunities to share this information. Absolutely. So the first thing is know what your expenses are, and don't be shy to share them, because again, they don't know how our business is structured, how we operate as real estate agents. Any others?
Also, Kay Elmy said, what do you think about the way Redfin pricing their listing? Also, I have on the internet companies offering listing properties for as low as $3,000.
Well, that's the first example that I gave you. Let's take Redfin. Redfin, this may or may not be common knowledge here, but most, let's call them reputable companies. Most reputable companies want their agents, when they list properties, to give the cooperating broker at least 2.5%. This has been my experience. I'm not talking about price fixing. I'm telling you what's real for me in doing my business. So Redfin is no different. I've had a short stint with Redfin. I understand exactly how they work. So it's exactly what Joseph said. Great. What are we paying the other company if we're doing the listing? So now, having come into the last few years of understanding what it takes to be a viable real estate company, most Redfin listing agreements are actually being signed at 4.5% to 5%, because they do want to reciprocate to other brokers. And the reason they want to do that is they don't want to be known as that bad real estate company no agent wants to do business with, because as Joseph said, and as the example just given, there are companies that are paying nothing. I saw one recently where they were paying literally $200 for a almost $1 million home that was for lease. And I guarantee you that property is going to sit for a very long time unless the listing agent procures a tenant. So the first question about Redfin is basically like all the other companies. Their fees are what the local market is sort of dictating. And in terms of the flat fee, those have been, when I got into real estate 2,000 years ago, there was companies doing the same thing. They were offering, which is why that's the very first Floyd Wickman came up, but that's the first objection handler, which takes care of almost 90% of the objections, which is, Chris, I understand, but are you looking for a discount brokerage? And I've never heard anybody say yes. Any other questions? So very quickly.
I have one question. This is
Yes.
Diane. Do you show like a net sheet at all? Like what the cost for selling a house at the presentation?
Yes, I'll have my escrow officer prepare a net sheet. That'll be in my little folder. As much as I love virtual stuff, there's something to be said for me handling an object to a seller, leaving something behind. So I'll have a folder. I'm going to ask and hope that very soon we'll each be able to have really nice, possibly purple radius agent folders. And so what I'll do is I'll have the CMA in there, the title profile, that simple one-page bio about me. I like leaving them something of value. So almost always it'll be both an envelope opener with my information on it and a pen, my business card, the net sheet, which I'll have my one of my escrow officers prepare for me. That's really very, very helpful because it gives them an idea of exactly what the net dollar amount is going to be, which is something that quite frequently they don't understand. Thank you for bringing that up. Great question. They don't understand that, what the net to them is the most important number. They when they pay me my typical asking fee, that net dollar amount is more than likely going to be much higher than possibly working at a discounted level. And I'll tell them, if you're really, really concerned, let's put that additional whatever percentage equates to as a dollar amount on top of the listing price, because I know how I'm gonna work and I'm gonna be able to get it for you. So the answer is yes, net sheet. Any others? So let's talk about my mentor. Most of this stuff I started developing about 16 years ago when I first was introduced to Floyd Wickman. He had something called the SMART program, which is an acronym. And basically the whole premise is coming from a place of working smart and not necessarily working hard. So they're all scripts and dialogues and objection handling ideas that I got in my participation of that SMART program over a 4-month period, and kind of made them my own. So full disclosure, both in terms of why I loved the program. If you ever want to go and see any of these ideas that I'm sharing with you, where live he or one of his amazing agents is doing on a video at his website or YouTube, I encourage you to do it. And of course, this material will be on our academy, and there's amazing materials on our academy as well. I can't impress upon all of you guys enough is you have to practice this stuff. You practice it until it becomes second nature. And that practice part is what we're going to discuss last year. And any questions before I do that? Okay, awesome. So always take a listing agreement with you. Remember, I told you I've lost 2 listings. One of them was a for sale by owner, closed it within less than 30 minutes, reached into my folder, and I had left the listing agreement at the office. I told him, I apologize. Let me drive to the office, get the listing agreement, come back. That happened in less than 45 minutes. Lo and behold, by the time I got back, they got cold feet. That was one of the first times, the first time I didn't get a listing. So that's number 1. Always get the listing appointment signed when you're at the appointment. Yes, we're in the technological age. Yes, if you don't like handling papers, have your iPad, your laptop, your phone, whatever it is ready, or tell them to have theirs ready right there as you're watching. Send them the documentation via DocuSign, sign it. Do not leave the listing appointment without a signed agreement. I can't be any more clear. If the seller says something like, oh, thank you, great presentation, but we're going to talk about it again, do the objection handlers. One of them that you can use is, there's going to be a sort of a pre-marketing lead time. I need to bring photographers. I need to have the drone people come, the tour people come. We're going to do a possible staging. Let's sign the agreement today And while I'm working to get all that stuff done before we actually bring it on the market, we can talk about any of the concerns you have, and you can talk about whatever we need to, so that when it's time to market the property, we haven't lost any time. It's a hot market. Let's get it on the market as soon as possible and sold. Ask for the listing. The most common reason why you will leave a listing, I hope nobody here leaves a listing agreement without getting it ever, but if you do, it would be because you forgot to do this one thing. Ask for it. Here's just an example. This is what I would use. Let's sign the agreement today so I can get to work and sell your home. Very, very, very concise, very simple, very authentic, transparent. I mean, you just went through a whole list of reasons why they should list the property with you. Let's sign the agreement today so I can get to work and sell your home. Right, Chris? Did we lose him? Okay. Okay, so does anybody need to maybe 30 seconds to grab a drink or anything like that? Because the next 10 minutes or so, we're going to talk about our tool belt. Awesome. So this, after my experiences with the Floyd Wickman program, and for a couple of years of practicing this with my then team, we had a team of 11. We would do scripts and dialogue practices 2 times a week, 1.5 hours each time. Like I said, one of the great coaches of all time, Vince Lombardi, says, perfect practice makes perfect. You have to practice this stuff. Watching the video isn't going to be enough. It'll give you insight, but you have to practice this. Think of some of the greatest athletes of our time. Think of some of the greatest actors of our time. They all have coaches. They're all practicing. For those of you who know basketball, the first several years Kobe Bryant played for the Lakers, I'm a lifetime Lakers fan. I didn't like him because I thought he had a rotten attitude. But the more I got to know Kobe Bryant off the basketball court, the more I saw what his work ethic was, what time in the morning he got up before sunrise every morning, how hard he practiced. You're talking about somebody who some people say is the best, some people say he's in the top 3. Wherever he is, regardless of 1, 2, 3, or anywhere in the top 5, to be in the top 5 of the greatest basketball players to ever walk this planet it says a lot. So when I got to know his work ethic and how he played through so many injuries, I started loving the guy. Not only did I dislike him, I loved him. So you have to practice. So here we go. So think of our real estate industry as constantly evolving, because it is. Take it from somebody who went from writing contracts on the hoods of cars on a 2-page, yes, a 2-page purchase agreement. The listing agreement when I got in used to be 2 pages, and I'm sure there's people still working the business today for whom it was maybe 1 page. So it's constantly evolving. So we have to be evolving with it. We have to be constantly learning. So think of our collective knowledge as real estate agents as a tool belt. And each skill that we have, we talked about preparing for a listing appointment. We talked about how to establish value, how to match their tone. We talked about, just in this program, so many different things. In past programs, discussions were had about different things. The next one that'll talk about the specific documentation. There's going to be a whole lot of information that we all need in order to conduct ourselves professionally, ethically, and legally. So each of those is a skill, and collectively they work in our tool belt. So I'm looking for somebody to tell me what stands out in the photo, the graphic that's on the screen for you right now. This photo was chosen very deliberately. What stands out for you guys?
The hammer It looks like a hammer. It's in the middle of his pants.
Okay. You're on the right track, but not that specific. Just in general, what do you notice?
He looks like a guy who can fix things because he's got all sorts of tools.
Very good, Rebecca. What direction is he facing?
Where the work is.
Very good. Where are his tools?
That's what I was gonna say. The tools are behind him.
Okay, so just judging by this picture, he's facing his work. His tools are behind him. Would you say this is a skilled, experienced technician or somebody starting new?
Skilled.
Why, Rebecca?
Because he looks like he can fix anything. He looks like he's, he knows what tool to use to get the job done.
Okay.
And he knows where they're placed already without having to look.
Ah, who said that?
Andrea.
Andrea, beautiful. That's exactly right. He does not even have to look at his tools. He knows where they are. How did he get there?
He practiced.
He practiced.
That's right. I could have put, when Kimberly and I were looking at perspective photos, there was hundreds, probably thousands if I kept looking. I found so many with the tool belts in front. The tools on the tool belt in front, the person looking down to grab a tool. That's a beginner. This is an expert technician who doesn't even have to look at his tool belt. So when Chris says, wow, 6%, I was hoping to pay 4%, I reach immediately behind me and I grab the first objection handling tool very quickly. I don't have to look because I've practiced. I know where it is. So I say, Chris, I understand your concern. Are you looking for a discount brokerage? I don't have to go, hold on, Chris. Hold on, let me, right? Because I've practiced. So you reach down, say, I understand. Are you looking for it? So I want you guys to leave this session I want you to have dreams for the next couple of weeks with you using your tool belt. I want you to think about this so much because I assure you, when this aha moment came to me, I'm not a bookworm by any stretch. I'm not spending hours and hours of study kind of guy, but in the areas of my life where I've chosen to do that, and real estate being one of them, I've understood the value of practicing. Just like the musician in me practiced for years, for hours a day, until I got to a skill level so that one day when I was invited to play at the Hollywood Bowl, no pressure, no problem, I'll play the Hollywood Bowl. And I got into the same dressing room where the Rolling Stones and Fleetwood Mac and the Beatles and Elton John and all those people went up the same elevator at the Hollywood Bowl. All the dressing rooms are below stage, and walked onto that stage. And man, let me tell you, it was amazing. So that's what, this is what you want. Every time you go on an appointment, whether you choose to take the listing or not, this is what you want to do. You want to sharpen those skill sets and constantly be learning. I'm here for you. Rebecca, all of our amazing support people are here for you guys. Anything that really stood out for you, anything that you didn't like in terms of material in this course, reach out to us. We want you guys, it's the reason I'm doing this is part of my responsibility is to get all of your tool belts to be positioned like this person. If 6 months to a year from now, you're all like this, then I've succeeded. If not, then I haven't. And I want to make sure I don't want any expired listings in this group. Let me put it to you that way. I want all sold way above asking price in 3 days.